Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expected to meet with the president in Washington Wednesday. Top topic for the two gentlemen, U.S. negotiations with Iran trying to reach a deal on nuclear weapons. Now think about this. This all comes as the U.S. builds up troops near Iran, as well as a New York Times analysis showing Iran appears to be rebuilding nuclear facilities that President Trump said the U.S. had decimated. So it's not surprising Israel's Netanyahu believes any U.S. negotiations with Iran must include limitations on ballistic missiles. So let's bring in CBS News Middle East reporter Courtney Kealy. Courtney, do we know much about those indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran and whether they accomplished anything in a concrete sense Friday?
Quite frankly, the way to look at it is they agreed to speak again. They agreed to meet in Oman on Friday, go back to their capitals of Tehran and Washington. They were called constructive and good, but that's really what only what we know. And also, they're sticking to the nuclear issue. They're sticking to the enrichment plants that were bombed last June. They're sticking to the issue of enriched uranium that's capable of then being used for nuclear bombs. They're not talking about the ballistic missiles. So we talked to an expert, and this is what he had to say.
Past this prologue, President Trump likes his diplomacy like he likes his military action, short, sharp, and decisive. And the strategy behind Iran's nuclear engagement now is to draw out talks, to make time a weapon for them. And that simply doesn't seem to jive with the way President Trump has approached any negotiation at any time.
He likes to make a deal, and if not, he likes to have a show of force.
Exactly.
So basically, the Iranians do not want to put that on the table, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to the White House on Wednesday to discuss exactly that with President Trump. The Iranians want to lengthen this, and President Trump, as we've seen before, doesn't often have the patience for something like that.
Well, and I mentioned off the top, Iran potentially already rebuilding some nuclear capability. Can you capture the scope of their missile system? How big is that arsenal? What are we talking about?
It's arguably the biggest threat to U.S. troops on the ground in the Middle East, in places like Kuwait and Bahrain. This is not for the faint of heart. They have short, medium, and long-range missiles. We've seen some of the long-range that have gone to Israel, but this is what Benjamin Ben Taliblu had to say about this.
The regime is capable of destruction and punishment using long-range strikes, like ballistic missiles, like cruise missiles, like drones, and like anti-ship missiles. It's trying right now to force America to operate from further and further range to keep America out of the Persian Gulf or limit the number of vessels it can bring in. But right now, there's a high-stakes game of chicken between them.
So the Strait of Hormuz, stopping any of the shipping lanes there is a threat. The U.S. troops is a threat, and Benjamin Netanyahu is really going to have a face-to-face with President Trump on Wednesday to really lay this out.
All right, Courtney Kealy, thank you so much. Another big week ahead where Iran and Israel and the United States are concerned.